Thanks, Jacob, and thank you all for coming. I'm happy to see my friends, so, and everybody else as well. Thanks very much. Let's see. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you all of these. I'm going to pick and choose according to, some of it will be in time, but some of it I might jump around. And but first I'd like to say that thanks for inviting me, and I do have a sort of, I sort of feel like I'm an alumni of the studio school, because when I was finishing up at Queens in the late 60s, a lot of my teachers were involved in starting the studio school. And I would always be hearing, oh, at the studio school we're going to do this, and at the studio school we're going to do it that way, and all these different things, and I would hear all these things, and so I had a lot of the same teachers, and so I know drawing. So I do sometimes feel I'm an alumni. So anyway. Let's see. So I have a show up now at Thomas Erben Gallery on 26th Street in Chelsea. And it's up till the 25th. It would be great if you would stop by and see it. But I'm going to start with that work and try to tell you about it and such. And okay, oops. Okay, so this painting has been it's on our catalog cover, and the school used, Jacob used it for the announcement here. So it's getting a lot of, excuse me? Oh, okay. More in the microphone? Okay. So it's getting a lot of attention. This show is called Housing Development, because, and I'll show you some previous groups of work which help you, I'm sorry, yes, which help, which help you understand about this group. That were previous. So what happened is I have this way of working that I've used for a while, which I like very much. It works well for me. It's simple, geometric work. There are a couple of aspects to it that I'm particularly interested in. But a number of years ago, I saw these photographs of houses, and they were very brightly colored, and so you have the color, and you have simple shapes, which I like. I do like minimalism, and so I'm looking at these photos, and I think this kind of looks like a painting, and I thought, well, this could be a good subject for a group of paintings. I tend to work in groups, or people say series, and so I began working on this. I work usually drawing first. Not all the time, but it helps me find the form and gives me some direction. So, and again, one thing was so the odd thing is that that it started, I thought it would have more of a house shape, but I didn't really I didn't really want that. I'm very interested in abstraction. I think there's a difference, although it's a little hard to describe what that is. But I'm interested in the way people understand a form just very abstractly without connecting it to something they know. This table, this lamp, this speaker, the floor, the chair. We have a way of just immediately recognizing these things and say, oh, okay, I got it. I'm more interested in the way things feel, the way you might interpret an abstraction. Everyone might interpret it differently in terms of your own personal experience or thoughts or all kinds of things like that. So I didn't want to have it that explicit. So what I did was, as I saw them, those drawings I showed you, I put them away. I didn't want to work in that way. So I like oil stick quite a bit. Works well for me for a number of reasons, which I might explain later. But, excuse me, so I began, these are fairly small, 10 by 13, with the oil stick, which I found a really nice way to use, which is instead of just leaving it on the surface, it has quite a bit of substance. I actually kind of blended in with a paper towel, which covers a whole area, and it picks up some of that substance. So as I was drawing, again, I wanted to move away from that house form. And what happened was that a simple grid-type form, 2 verticals, 2 horizontals, let's see, seemed to work really well. And for me, that gave me the basis for the rest of the drawings, and it felt to me like that simple grid would really convey what I saw in these photos of the houses, really convey just the way just the shapes, the colors, the heaviness, the stability, the volume of that form without it looking like a house. So anyway, and so for instance, well, okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about, since I have the drawings, is the way that one of the things that interests me about this way of working, which seems to be carrying me many, many, many years, and I have a number of different ideas coming up, but one of the things that interests me very much about this way of working is, excuse me, is that the paintings turn out very differently than the drawings. And to really, for me, it has become fascinating the way they change. That it just, I can't really make the paintings like the drawings. It's kind of would, I would be imitating this material, and it doesn't really work well. So when when I do get to the painting, it has to be totally different. And sometimes there are big differences and very, very interesting transitions that I have to make with this process. I don't have the drawing for this one here or this one. But this was the only one where I sort of kept a sort of house shape, but it's not really. But then the painting came out totally different. I changed it quite a bit. So this is really the only one like that. I'll maybe show you a few more here. Yeah, and for instance, so it's very, very interesting to me to go through this process. I like the drawings, and I like the paintings. Most of the time, of course, you lose some. But anyway, this is a bit of the process I've been working on for a number of years now. And I wanted to show you how, well, before I do that, I want to show you something else, which is this is a painting from 1978. It's not of this group. It's one of my favorite paintings, and every time I look at it, I think of a house. Now, this had no relationship at all to this recent group that I have shown. This is just a surprise, really a surprise. And I'm showing you this to explain a little bit about what I think about knowing what something is, a house, and then that is not necessarily the case all the time, that we can interpret that so many different ways, or interpret a square or a triangle, whatever. I feel very strongly about abstraction, that I want people to think without images in a way, to have that experience in a way of wandering and see what that form, how that resonates with you, if it does or if it doesn't, to force people, in a sense, to get in touch with more abstract relationships, colors, shapes, and such. So now, this painting is from about, that was 78, this is about 88. And kind of looks like a house, doesn't it? I wasn't thinking of that at all. But every time I get this painting out or whatever, I think, geez, it sort of looks like a house. So I wanted to bring that up, that this wasn't really a literal type decision to do this group of work. It was just sort of, I just saw something that had the feeling of a certain form, and I tried my best to paint that feeling without a specific knowable form. So anyway, I'm going to move on to another similar group, a previous group, where I use the same sort of technique. So I'm going to skip a little bit. And I'm going to really skip around. So in a sense, this was when I began using the oil stick to draw, and this is about, I'm guessing, this is it could be about 2012, and it really worked well for me. And I did a number of drawings using this, and then I've used this oil stick in many, many ways going forward. And I will show you some of those as well. But I am moving now, so I'll just quickly, because I kind of like them. These are some more of, these are a little more eccentric of the oil stick drawings. I never made a painting of this one. I really love this drawing, though. It's so wacky. And then this one, that really, it sort of reminds me of a waffle iron. And I like that quite a bit, too. And so anyway, this way of drawing has worked very well for me. But I want to move to where a place a few years before where I began having the drawings and then painting them, which again became very, very interesting to me. So let's see. So for instance, this is in my studio, and you see all those. This is a series, a quadrant series. That's its. We refer to it like that. It's maybe we could say it's. Oh no! Its name was permeable resistant, because the drawings are very permeable with the material and the way it's used and the absorbent paper, and the paintings are rather resistant because. Because the whole surface, the whole technique, and the painting dry and everything about it, it has much more resistance than the drawings. So this was the Quadrant series, which is about it could be almost 8 years before the housing development, and. Excuse me. 1 second. Yeah. Come on. Go. Yeah. So, so this was the Quadrant series, and just to show you what sort of fascinated me about it is, this was one of the drawings. And this was how the painting came out. And so when you're doing this, it can be quite challenging. I mean, I thought at first that, oh, this is going to be easy. You know, I have the canvas, and I'm just going to map it out, and blah, blah. Well, it didn't work at all. Everything was wrong. And so a lot of adjustments had to be made to make these paintings. And just to show you a little bit about that idea of that it didn't really, it had to, the looser the painting started, the more accurate it would become. Like, for instance, here, this is how the painting started. It's very loose, which turns out works better. And then it builds up and gets more specific, and this was the way it wound up. So just that it's a very painterly process, which I find interesting. Let's see, there was one other thing I wanted to show you here about this. When I started the series, I knew I was going to do this quadrant because I had done all these drawings, but when I started painting, I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to start painting. I don't really need the drawings. So this was the first one of that series. And I didn't have a drawing for this, and nor for this one. And then, but after doing, I did a number of them without drawings. But an interesting thing happens when you're approaching the canvas, and you have this idea, and let's say canvas after canvas, and it starts to get a little repetitive. There's just so much, with the canvas. Well, what does it cost? $500, so you gotta be more careful, whatever. Whereas, drawing, that gives you that freedom. But after a while, without the drawing, started to become very repetitive. But the interesting thing is so the drawings are very fast and very spontaneous. And so they do these quirky things that you probably wouldn't do right away on a canvas. So it gives me some new ways of approaching it and some unusual ways, and just some things that were more interesting than actually just going straight to the canvas. So for instance, here, so this drawing became this painting. And the difference between the two really interests me. And this drawing became this painting. Oh, there we're back to there. And let me just, and yeah, so I think I showed you that. And then, so that's pretty much this quadrant series, permeable, resistant. And even though it's a few years before, I think it gives a good idea of the kind of process I'm into, how the work comes out. And I've always wanted to show this picture, and now I have the opportunity to. It's just one morning I was very early at the studio. I guess I didn't sleep well. I got up early and I went to the studio, and this is what I found from the window, and I always liked it. And so here's my opportunity to finally show this picture. So anyway, so what I want to do now is to show you another group of this type of work, and this group falls around 2020. And this group is made of, this group is these nesting rectangles. And so after the quadrant group, I wasn't sure where to go. I kind of knew that I liked this process, and I found it was giving me interesting ways to approach painting. And so I wasn't sure, though, what form I wanted to use. So I drew, which helps me clarify what I'm interested in and gets the form going. And so if you see here, this one here, I didn't know yet this is sort of more like the quadrant, so that's where I started. I didn't know where I was going to wind up, but I didn't really like this. I never made a painting of it. But then the rectangles formed, and I like the drawings. They're very fast, very spontaneous, and when I go to the painting, what I try to do is, I'm not really copying the drawing, but usually if I like the drawing, there's usually some quirky thing about it, something about it that I really want to emphasize, or that interests me. So I went to, okay, so let's see. So, and these also have very interesting transitions to them, like, for instance, this drawing became this painting. So the drawing itself, you'd think, oh, well, why is it so different? Why? And early on, I tried to emulate the drawings a little, but it sort of doesn't really work in a painting. The material is different, and I felt if I put all this mushy stuff, it was like pretending it was something else. And I like, just plain areas, and I like minimalism and such. So this was a real change, but it was very interesting to make. And a few more. So this drawing became this painting. The white around it is not part of the painting, it's the wall. Became this. And this drawing became this painting. And let's see what else we have here. Oh, this was an interesting one. This, because it had so much mushy stuff going on, I didn't know what to do with it. And I worked on it for quite a while, and this is how it ended up. And the funny thing about this was, one of the things about this was that, well, I was doing these. I would have the drawing, I'd have the canvas. These are 4 by 5 feet. And I'd have the drawing a few feet away on the wall and have the canvas, and I'm trying to do it. And I found myself looking back and forth from the drawing to the painting, to the drawing to the painting. And it reminded me of life drawing figure painting. And it very, very much reminded me of that. And let's see what there's. And so that was the process. And remind me, and I thought of that as the title for this group, but I didn't have the nerve. So, but I retitled it a few months ago, and this is the title for this group of work. And again, there are no figures in this, in these paintings, and there are no houses in housing development. So I will refer to Glenn Goldberg now, who you might know, and he always has a number of bird forms in his paintings, and I read something he wrote, and he says, there are no birds in these paintings, and so there are no figures in these paintings, etc., or houses in housing development. Two different things. So, so that was another series based on this process that I've been using, and also, yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do now is between these groups, my last show at the Thomas Erben Gallery was called Portraits of Squares. And for this group, I didn't do any drawings. I tried, but they weren't going anywhere. They weren't going anywhere, so I just went straight to the canvas. And what I was trying to do was, it was very interesting. From an idea I had about 35 years ago, we wrote about this in our press release for this, but there was a show at the Whitney of Don Judd's work at the Whitney. I think it was, I don't remember if it was a retrospective or a pretty big show. And I was looking at this box on the floor. He had a number of them, and they had different materials and reflections and clear plexi and shiny materials. I'm looking at this box and really enjoying it, and I thought, I wonder if you can do that in painting. Take the square and see how many ways you could do it. So for this group, I started, again, no drawings, and I started with a square, and I would just see how it would develop in the most, with as much character, with as much sense of painting as I could. So, I would just start with the square, any old place or any size, and then see where the painting took me. So interesting that this had been floating around in my mind for 35 years, and all of a sudden I had a break in my work where I could, I had a little space where I didn't feel compelled to keep going, and I thought, maybe this is a good time to try this. And each one was very different. I have briefly, I'll just say something about this so people go, oh, Mondrian. Well, it has nothing to do with Mondrian. It's a totally different project. And the thing is that, and I could have avoided this. I could have said, oh, well, that's what people are going to say, so I'm not going to go there. But that's why I went there. Because it's a challenge, okay? And I really feel that how resemblances are not what the painting is really about. And if you unpack this painting a little, or unpack a Mondrian a little, you will see that the motivations are totally different, and they're based on. So to me, this is a bit of a challenge. Just like with the rectangles, I thought, hey, I can't use this. Didn't Roscoe do this? Oh, this is so familiar. And I thought, that's exactly why I'm going to do it. And that I felt I could do something new with it. And I wanted to break that idea of, oh, yes, I know what this is familiar. And see if I could go a little further with it, get people to unpack the painting a bit, go a little further than what you first see on the surface. So that this is a few people say, oh, Mondrian. I say, yeah, right. And so, whoops. Okay, what happened here? Okay, so, okay, just a second. Whoops, it has a mind of its own. So I think I had, just one more of the squares. Yeah. So this series came rather quickly, and well, not so quickly, but instead of 3 years, maybe a year and a half. And I felt I was done, and I was ready to move on. And the next And the next series is housing development. So I'm going to go back a little bit in time and talk about some other things. So again, the drawing painting method had a number of different ramifications. I can tell you at some point. And one second, Jacob, about how much time do we have?
15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you. So these drawings, as I showed you before, are rather quirky, and these are some of the paintings that came from them. Some of them stay fairly similar, some of them change a great deal. And it's very much fun to adjust them. I really enjoy it since it's not really given to me right away. My studio around that time. Okay, so that was another group. So what I think I'll do right now is go to an early period of work, quite a bit earlier, that I actually was the first time I actually did a painting from a drawing. And so these are, this is in, I was teaching out of town in Richmond, Virginia. And so this is around 1984 or 5. So I was, this is a funny experience, which is that I was there and a little lonely. I'm so used to having tons of galleries and museums to go to, and one museum and one gallery or something like that. So anyway, I did a good bit of work while I was there. And so a friend of mine from the West Coast was in the area, and we were going to have a visit. She got lost, of course, and it took quite a while. So I'm waiting, and then so I pick up. I like to draw. I haven't done this in a while, but I have liked to draw very much with sumi brush and ink. So I'm waiting, and so I did these drawings. They were oblong. I must have them, although I'd have to really search for them. They were maybe 10 by 16, something like that, with brush and ink. And then my friend came, and I put them away, and then a couple of days later, I said, gee, I really like these drawings. And I thought, I think I'll try to make paintings out of them. But of course, they were just black and white. And so I had to invent the color. And I even had to invent, which was quite funny, I actually tried to emulate the brush strokes of the, I liked the drawing so much, I wanted to get that, that sumi brush thing. So I actually tried to emulate that, which was another added element. And so this was the first time that I actually used that process. And so this is 20 years before I'm using it now. And, oops, this was I'll show you that later. But this is one of my favorite groups of paintings. And for this one, it was funny because there was a lot of crazy brushwork over all the forms. And I thought, well, how am I going to do that, So I carved into a roller to get it, and then I covered that. And I'm going to jump somewhere else now so that's sort of how that process developed. But what I wanted to, something I wanted to very much tell you about is that you might see that the color in my work is very strong. And people have commented on it. Well, whoa, what is this? How did you get this? Et cetera. What kind of color is this? What is this? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And what it is that at a certain point, about 30 years ago, I think, and I would say it's it could be about 30 years ago, and I was doing lots of just gestural, abstract, again, fairly geometric work. Whoops, sorry. And my computer has a mind of its own. So, like here, and here. But all of a sudden, everything felt a little too white to me, a little too pale, a little too white. And it was bothering me. So for a while, then I worked in black and white just to see what this was all about. I believe these are 96, 95, 96. I had a lot of fun with these, actually. And so I did a whole group. And then I was ready to go back to color. I went back to color, but it still wasn't, it's still, like if you see all this, it still was bothering me. So I said, okay, I'm going to see if I can paint without any white in my color. I'll sometimes use white as a separate area, use it to function kind of as a color. But I started to, and then I thought, oh yeah, well, watercolor, you don't use any white, although the paper becomes your white. So I painted, this is from about 1996 or 97. Since then, I have not used any white in my paint, period. So I even learned how to read the labels on it, and if it's got, I know it's white, and then I won't buy it. So anyway, I started this group. This is about 96, so we're about 35 years away, and I really thought it was going well. The interesting thing is let me go back a little bit here, if the computer will let me, is that the paintings, some of them were very dark, and I was like, geez, so dark, but actually I was looking at some Tibetan paintings around that time, and they are very dark. So I thought, okay, that's okay. So, and so I continued with this group, so there's no white at all. And then, so I had that idea, and the funny thing is that all the configurations just evolved naturally. I sort of had that color idea, and I would try it this way, that way, and lots of different configurations and ways to paint came out of that. And so after that, I thought at a certain point, then, oh, is this a very good idea? What, and I think about it and test it out or whatever. But it always came up for me as a good idea, worth pursuing. And the interesting thing is about it. So then once I had that color idea, it kind of morphed into a number of different types of compositions, and it started to have more organic forms to it. This is a big painting. This one is still more geometric. But so with that technique, then lots of other ways of using this just evolved. So these are probably 98, things in 1998. And I did 2 paintings of this. This is from a doodle. I like to this is from a doodle. There were 2 paintings. The yellow one is smaller. This is a bigger, and this one are all from the same doodle. But the shape is different, so it came out very different. I like to, in a way, I think a lot of there's a bit of a game quality to what I like to do. Like I will like doing 2 versions of one drawing. This is interesting. It's this, and then this is, I believe, this year's. Then this is, if that was 96, and this might be almost 2000. So a drawing I made, and I liked it. I wanted to paint it, but again, this is no color here, so I had to invent the color. And I did 2 versions of that drawing. And so I like to, it seems like in many ways this game thing keeps popping up. And, let's see if I can, find something else. And this was from a doodle, and this is a bigger painting. So there were some other things about that game quality, but they're not popping in my mind at the moment. So I won't dwell on it. But so what I'm going to, I have to show you this. This is really, so this is sort of like that game quality. And this was while I was in Richmond, Virginia. This is a 4-part painting. It's not very big. It's maybe 3 or 4 feet square with, and I liked this one quite a bit. And so I did a big painting of that one. So, this is kind of funny. So I did, that series I showed you from the black and white. So again, I was isolated in Richmond, Virginia with not enough to look at. I shouldn't say that, but anyway, some of the other things that happened there were there was a little show. They had the University Gallery I was teaching at, Virginia Commonwealth. And again, these are some, I did a lot of quirky work while I was there. And this was the group that was in this gallery. But I have to show you this one, which is, so anyway, at the show, and an acquaintance standing next to me said, "Gee, that looks like a steak on a grill," and that has never left me, and that's the name. That is the name of this painting, and and this one sort of reminds me of a peanut, but whatever. Anyway, and so I really did. You know, they say sometimes, this is curious, you know, when you're miserable, you make your best work. Well, I'm not sure about that, but I was miserable while I was there, and not because anything, many reasons, but I look back and I did some interesting work there, you know, who knows? But and anyway, don't make yourself miserable to do good work. I believe. Just very briefly. So, and then we probably have to stop. Do we have to? What? Keep. All right. Thank you. So, a very curious aspect of my work is how I started when I was finishing at Queens College in 1969. I had done, you know, Cojori and Finkelstein, and they were my teachers, so I did lots of figure work. And Richard Serra was brought in as an adjunct. The department was really growing. I had Louis Finkelstein brought in all his friends as adjuncts. Unfortunately, these great people, great painters, needed to teach an adjunct class. Like Alex Katz was there teaching an adjunct class. Can you believe it? You know, and James Brooks, fantastic painter, great teacher. Fairfield Porter, I had, fantastic person. And Richard introduced us at the time. I was getting bored with doing the figure and figurative work, and introduced us to process work. And very interestingly, we really hadn't been exposed, and I'm going to try and hurry up on this, we hadn't been exposed to a lot of things happening in the city. We were really quite provincial. And Richard would say, okay, you got to go to and watch Yvonne Rainer, and you got to go see Robert Morris and Robert Ryman and Agnes Martin. And, you know, so he introduced us to what was happening in the city and this thing with process, which really resonated with me to this day. Just the way you put on the paint, just what happens when you put on the paint, just how your ideas develop. To me, that's all process. So I used this technique for a while, which was I would draw with crayon. These are big canvases, cover with gesso, and then remove. And so very quickly, and then I'm ready to, I used numbers as just a drawing tool, just to number something, covered it. I dyed canvas, covered it. And then I moved into actually fabricating what the result of that process would be. So, in other words, imagining if I did that process, what that would be, and even making three-dimensional objects that would represent that process. This is a bigger one. And numbers and covering numbers, revealing numbers, again, that game-like quality. And I'm going to wind up in just a moment, which is that at a certain point, and this is about 1975, I kept doing that process, but all of a sudden it sort of wore thin for me in a number of ways. I had been doing a lot of that gesso work while I was a student, and then on my own, at a certain point, it wore thin, and this was not an easy decision because people were showing my work, and some of it was selling, but I just felt that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing these paintings, and so I went back to oil. This is a big painting, and I went back to oil, and as you see, they're still geometric. Again, the process is very strong, although people might not think so. But and I'm glad I made that choice because I feel that this is. I'm just going to quickly, don't pay too much attention here, but just a few more things before we stop. But I guess I was going to say it was a big decision, but I'm very, I was young, that's, I'm not going to worry about a decision when I'm like 26 years old. Forget it. So anyway, so I feel that I was able to explore a lot of things, and it has been a very wonderful experience. So okay, let's stop.
Anyone?
So question here, yeah.
Your show that's up today at Thomas Erben has a painting in the collection, or in the catalog, that's not in the show. And that painting is from the 70s, I think, or early?
No, there are three groups of paintings in the catalog, and I did it that way to show the relationship between those groups and the process that I've been using. So all those, the paintings are the current paintings, and there are some from 2018 and 2022.
Okay, so, but why is that one particular painting why isn't it in the show?
As far as I know, in the show, we just did the housing development paintings. That's what's in the show. But the catalog, as it says, housing development and other paintings, the catalog is about these different relationships between these three groups of paintings. So, yeah.
Hi, thank you for that. That was very, very interesting. And one of the things I love about your work is there's a certain whimsy and joy to it, which is sometimes difficult to put into geometric abstraction. And one of the reasons that I think your work has that lightness is there's a certain attitude of joy and a lack of the bad kind of seriousness, so that if a line is not exactly straight or parallel, it doesn't. It in fact adds to the overall what you're trying to do rather than detract. And in my own thinking about that sort of thing, they're almost like imperfections of the human hand, as opposed to something that could be done digitally. And I always wonder if going forward from where we are now, these imperfections of the human hand are going to take on an increased importance in what painting is as the world becomes more digital. So these are just, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about some of that.
Excuse me. I don't really think very much about what's going on, the trends in art. Like if you say that if the trend in art is going in certain direction, I look at as much as I can. I try to get as much as I can out of it, appreciate. But I do what I want to do, and I don't believe that with a lot of experience and a lot of study. I had a lot of art history. I'm very, very involved in that. But the going more digital or changing my approach, my hand to accommodate some other trend, that doesn't interest me at all. What if the hand, and I'm not really too interested either in the hand being representing human whatever. So, but and I would not, but going forward, and again, I have a few other ideas for a series coming up, but I wouldn't, I don't know if there's going to be less brushwork, more brushwork, probably not more, but I really wouldn't, I just think about what I want to do in the painting, what the idea is, and I do it. I really do not think about if I wanted to look a certain way or fulfill a certain aesthetic of the moment. I work on my own ideas.
Here's a question from Zoom. How do you decide which of your drawings you will translate into a painting? What inspires the drawing series, and do they always spring from an explicit image, as in the housing series?
Okay, so when I decide on usually there's something peculiar about the drawing that I think, oh, this would be interesting to paint. It's like, and then what I try to do, again, since I can't really copy it, I try to see if I can pull out that strange thing that attracted me to the drawing. In terms of this recent work, housing development, it seems like to me these themes are coming to me, although it's very, very, I'm very adamant about the difference between abstraction and relating too much to an object. So these themes are coming to me, but they're quite abstract. And this last group was maybe the only one where I really started with that theme. The others, it was a quadrant, what kind of theme is that, you know, or nesting rectangles, what kind of theme is that? But this one actually had a kind of theme. And then what tickled me in a way is, you know, the thing about housing development was like I had to really develop this idea. It didn't, you know, it didn't start out, so I had to really develop it. So that was one of the things about this group. So, you know.
I thought one of the really fascinating parts of your lecture was when you toggled back and forth between the drawings and the finished paintings. And I was just wondering if you have ever done drawings after the painting, or if when the painting is done, that's it, and you wouldn't consider doing a drawing after it.
No reason to do a drawing after the painting. I'd have no reason. There would be no reason at all. I'm drawing to find out about the form, and then if something interests me, I'll try to paint it. But after I have a painting, I'd have no interest in making what would be the point. So as far as I'm concerned, I know some people do that, but yeah. Okay. Anyone
Last one.
else? Yeah.
I'm curious about the serial nature of the work. Obviously we've been looking at things in groups, and I'm wondering at what point you know exactly, do you have your series planned out? Do you have one and do more until it feels correct? And at what point do you know when you need to move on, when something's starting to feel stale, and what is the process of moving between two series like?
Okay, so let's see. So again, I'd get an idea like the quadrant series, and from the drawings I do, as you see, I do many drawings of to get familiar with the form and see, and then again, if something really interests me, seems interesting, I'll make the painting. I don't think, oh, I'm going to make a series. I just have a kind of idea of some sort of form that I'd like to work with, and then at a certain point, I feel like I've done enough, and then I decide to explore some other form or approach or theme, but at a certain, it sort of seems like after 10 paintings, although they're very different than one another, the paintings, as you see, the paintings are very different from one another. But after a while, I think I feel sated in a way. I feel sated, and I feel, okay. And then it's really fun to think about what's next. And so.
Thank you so much, Harriet.
Okay. Thank you.